The year was 1996. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the Oklahoma Police Dispatch Center was a tomb of flickering lights and low hums. Suddenly, a line lit up. When the dispatcher answered, there was only the jagged hiss of static. Then, a woman's voice emerged, a brittle whisper that seemed to chill the very air of the room. "Someone is inside my house," she breathed. Her voice trembled with a primal fear, barely audible over a distant, rhythmic thudding sound that pulsed through the receiver like a heavy heartbeat. The dispatcher gripped his headset, his knuckles turning white, as he frantically typed the caller ID into his system. "Ma'am, stay with me," he urged. "What is your address?" But the woman did not answer. Instead of a reply, the sound of heavy, dragging footsteps echoed through the receiver, moving closer to the phone. Then, a sharp metallic click sliced through the tension, followed by a sudden, absolute silence. The dispatcher shouted into the microphone, his voice echoing in the empty station, but the line remained dead. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars screeched to a halt in front of a quiet suburban home. The officers sprinted to the porch, guns drawn, their breath visible in the cold night air. The front door was bolted firmly from the inside. They pounded on the wood, shouting their presence, but only a hollow silence answered from within. The house stood like a fortress, guarding a dark secret. After a failed attempt to pick the lock, the lead officer swung his shoulder into the door with all his weight. The frame splintered with a violent crack. They swept through the living room and kitchen, their flashlights cutting sharp paths through the oppressive darkness. Every shadow seemed to jump. Finally, they reached the master bedroom. There, bathed in the cold glow of their beams, they found the woman lying motionless on the floor. Her skin was waxy, cold, and pale. The struggle they expected was nowhere to be found. There was only the stillness of the room and the heavy scent of stagnant air. The medical examiner arrived shortly after, his boots clicking softly on the hardwood. He knelt by the body, conducting a preliminary scan. When he finally looked up at the lead investigator, his face was a mask of grim confusion. "She has been dead for at least 6 hours," he stated flatly. The room went deathly quiet. The detectives exchanged looks of pure disbelief. If she had been dead since the previous afternoon, she could not have picked up the phone. She could not have whispered for help. The timeline was impossible. The very woman lying cold on the floor was the one who had pleaded for her life.